Welcome to it. Real Red Reaction is in play as Nebraska able to handle business against UTEP 40-7. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbal, the incomparable Jeff Moats in his man cave can join us in the stream. Hail Varsity YouTube, Real Red Reaction YouTube, and of course Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. Can check that out. Also KFOR Facebook, KFOR Twitter is where you can connect with us. We are set up as well to take some phone calls over the line, 489-1240. If you want to join us on the stream, a busy, packed single barrel is where we're coming to you from. And many thanks out to our friends at Slim Chickens for their sponsorship here of Real Red Reaction. 2 locations in Lincoln for you, 84th and we'll say Old Shady, or just south of Old Shady for Slim Chickens on the east side, 17th and Pine, make that 14th and Pine Lake near Southwest on the southwest side. So Slim Chickens helping bring you Real Red Reaction all season long. 489-1240, 489-1240. We'll get our starting 5 shout-outs as well. The guys, let's roundtable this. A word about today, and a word is this to me: complete. A complete complete showing by Nebraska. Better to good on special teams, lights out on defense, and encouraging on offense. Motzi, is Nebraska able to put up 30 in the first half. You had a number of receivers catch the football. You had the running backs do their thing to the tune of 200 yards. And it was a very safe but effective showing by one Dylan Raiola as he got his first start as a Husker.
I will say this. I put this out on Twitter back early in the game, considering that first drive of the game was absolutely incredible in what he was able to accomplish in a first starting role at the college level. But despite the penalties that they had in that opening drive, it may have been the most smoothest start that the Nebraska offense has had in quite a while. Just the way things flowed, the way that they were able to mix up things, running the ball, even throwing the ball. Dylan Raiola in his debut at the college level was flawless. And we've been hearing all the hype about this kid and what he did in the high school level and what he's been doing during spring drills and what he did in the spring game, what he's been doing in fall camp. And you got to see that unfold today, guys. And I got to tell you, I was flat out impressed. You know, being the second true freshman quarterback to start since Adrian Martinez did it 5 years or 6 years ago now, which is hard to believe. But the way he looked today, it was almost like he was well seasoned at that level of football. And now you got your real big first test of the season coming up this next Saturday against Colorado. We saw what looked like a potential disaster out there on Thursday night with those guys against North Dakota State. And I'm not discrediting North Dakota State. They are a very good football team. They don't get enough credit. And I think in a sense that, you know, when they threw a couple of jabs at Colorado in that game Thursday night, I think it's safe to say that they finally realized, oh, yeah, well, we got to play some football. They did, and Colorado hung on by the skin of their teeth and won that game on Thursday night. I don't know. I think when you look at today's performance for Nebraska, that's the Nebraska of old to me. That was seeing – you know, the teams that came into Lincoln to open up the season. I'm just throwing out McNeese State or whoever, you know, a Division I AA or whatever they are, that comes in, they come into play just to play a D1 team, and they go out there and Nebraska flat out dominated. That's the Nebraska of old that I saw come forth today. And I think with the way that Dylan Raiola performed, the running backs between Ramir Johnson, Emmett Johnson, Gabe Irvin, they all played great today. Very few penalties, very few turnovers. Just the one I remember that was on downs, and then that was it. I mean, really just an impressive outing from what these guys displayed today. and what they're going to be able to do here between now and next week. It's going to be interesting to see what they can do to adjust their game plan. Obviously, Colorado is trying to come in with a chip on their shoulder to prove that they're still a pretty good program. And Nebraska's got a lot to prove, too. So I'm excited to see what comes forth here between now and next Saturday.
And one of my quick fire reactions is I'm pretty sure over the next week or so, we're going to be talking a lot about what running back is going to be differentiating themselves. The one thing that you missed there, Schmidt, if you could mute yourself in the stream, that'd be great. The fumble by Dante Dowdell. That's going to loom large. Matt Rhule has made it clear through his first 19 months in Lincoln, ball security is job security, especially with that running back position. I think that fumble in and of itself is going to loom large for Dowdell as he tries to determine who your starting running back is going to be. Was impressed with both the Johnsons, Emmett and Ramir today. Gabe Irvin gets a touchdown. What a fantastic story that is. I mean, the way he's battled back from multiple injuries, still plugging away, gets himself a touchdown today. That's awesome. But where I really want to start my reaction to this game, and we know, the reaction that everyone wants to hear is Dylan Raiola. He was as advertised in his first start. Let's go back to 2nd and 30 on the first possession of the game. Nebraska did not have a quarterback on roster last year that could pick up a 2nd and 30. Probably couldn't even get you to 3rd and 10, but he's able to make two fantastic throws. The first one goes over the defender into the waiting arms of Jamal Banks. Second one is that sidearm delivery to Mayor. Two fantastic throws. That was the two plays that stood out to a lot of people in the press box as being like, okay, this guy has not been oversold. I think he did have to settle into the game a little bit. I know that was early. The offense didn't look like itself maybe the rest of the first quarter, but he settled in, realized he could take advantage of one-on-one coverages against this UTEP team, which I have a feeling he probably didn't have the opportunity to do in fall camp against the Husky defense. Once he felt comfortable attacking single coverage with Nebraska's playmakers, it was over for that UTEP defense. He was as advertised. Banks was as advertised. Nayor was as advertised. The additions that Nebraska brought in on offense, we spent a lot of time this offseason discussing what they're going to bring. Well, they were exactly what was advertised to you, the fan, all offseason long.
19 to 27 for Dylan, 238, 2 touchdowns, fellas, and no interceptions, no turnovers for Dylan Raiola. We mentioned a word that comes to your mind to capture today's effort for Nebraska, 40-7 over UTEP. Confirmation, Nolan, with the word in the stream. And guys, I'm not going to be able to run stream and talk to you, so Elijah, I'll let you handle the stream comments, bud. But Nebraska was able to do what they wanted, and I want to go back to really the moments of tenseness in today's ball game. Nebraska is up 7-0. Things seem to be going all right. They go 3 and out, and then they get stopped on a 4th down. This is in the first quarter, guys. And Elijah, you and I were chatting in the press box. Instead of punting the football, which you were advocating for correctly, as we can armchair this thing, Nebraska goes for it. UTEP gets a first down, goes hyper quick, and then completes that 38-yard touchdown pass to tie things up at 7 apiece. Well, 7-7, the energy was zapped in the building. Then you had the Dante Dowdell fumble in the red zone as Nebraska was trying to answer back and go up 14-7. That doesn't happen. But Nebraska's defense raises up. And what swung the momentum and emotion of the ball game was Ty Robinson and company with the safety to make it 9-7. And then from that moment on, Nebraska football, after that safety, was able to reel off 3 straight touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 5 3-and-outs. It flipped the script of the ball game. You take the lead back, the offense gets rolling. They go to break up 30-7, and ran into some mutual friends in the hallway as some of the coaches were heading back down to talk with the team at halftime. And Nebraska scored 30 points how many times last year? Well, not enough. Nebraska had that at halftime this season with a new quarterback, commitment to the run game. And to your point, Elijah, some monster playmakers out of the portal at wide receiver with Nayor and, of course, with Jamal Banks, Motzi.
I want to point out something that really caught my attention earlier today. The fact that Nebraska had not had over 200 yards of offense in a single game last season, and it was past halftime where they picked up, 290 or something? I don't know. I don't have this official stat sheet yet that was sent out by Keith.
Over 330 yards at the half.
Okay, so that to me is another key point about what was so special with today's game. You couldn't have a total offense of over 200 yards in a single game last season, and you do it well at halftime. You're at 330. We'll probably get the totals here in a little bit, but it's just astounding on the flip from that standpoint more than anything else. And again, it's just the sign of the progress. You guys were talking about the transfer portal, what that's done for this program, what it's done on offense, what it's done now on defense. But that was one stat that really caught my eye more than anything, and I couldn't believe that. But when you could talk about the defense today, Hutmaker looked great. Ty Robinson, you talked about him, did a terrific job. And then late in the game, you got to see Maverick Noonan in there involved with some of that activity against some of the other guys from UTEP. But I just think this is not just a confidence booster, but this is a step up in the rebuilding process that continues for Matt Rhule. And then you got the big challenge. And I think a lot of people, no matter who you talk to, a lot of people, and you're seeing in the chat, bring on the Buffs, bring on the Buffs, bring on CU. You know, they're saying FCU and all that. I think that just shows you how many people that watch this game today now have got that confidence to see what this team can do moving forward. You know, and we've broken down realistically what we think the season could become for win-loss records. I mean, there's a lot of potential that this could be a team that could go undefeated heading into Ohio State. Don't want to put the cart before the horse, but it's what you saw today. There are glimpses of what could potentially have it happen moving forward, especially after next week.
And what I saw today was we've spent some time talking about the offense, talking about Dylan Raiola. That's easy. Like, we all have eyes. We all saw that was a noticeable step up from anything Nebraska's had in the quarterback room in a while, dating back to at least Adrian Martinez. And I think the debut performance was even better by Dylan Raiola today than Adrian Martinez. That's not a hot take by any means. The poise that Raiola showed today was fantastic. We're going to spend a lot of time discussing that. But one of the things I do want to get into really fast was the defensive performance, because that was expected. Like, we expected that the defense was going to play well today. They did. Aside from the one possession, I think UTEP caught him out on that possession, doing some things they probably weren't ready for. They looked super solid in every other game. And that's the factor, the part of the team that is going to keep you in games throughout the entirety of this year. Like, we can talk a lot about the offense and what it's going to be able to do against Colorado, what we hope it's going to be able to do against Colorado, but it's the defense that's going to need to step up against Colorado and give your offense a chance, because it's fantastic to start the year 1-0. It's fantastic to start the season with that type of offensive performance. You're stepping up the quality next week. And the offense is going to have to rise to that challenge, but it's the defense that's going to be keeping the offense in that football game, giving them an opportunity to rise to that challenge, because I mean, there were some hiccups early from the offense. That's going to happen early in the season. I'm expecting more hiccups next week. But based on what I saw from the defense today, where I don't think Tony White was really doing anything very special, didn't see many blitzes, didn't see anything. I mean, they still played fantastic. It's going to be them against Colorado. That's going to be the key. We can talk about Raiola all we want, but the defense is going to need to keep on playing that well. That was a fantastic start for the team.
Guys, let's talk Nebraska's running game for a minute. And Elijah, I'll let you pick out some stream comments, some shout outs in the starting five and beyond as folks are with us here on YouTube. The Real Red Reaction show brought to you by Slim Chickens, 2 locations in Lincoln off of 14th and Pine Lake and 84th and Old Shady. Big shout out to Slim Chickens for their Real Red Reaction sponsorship. KFOR Facebook and Twitter, Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter, Hail Varsity YouTube, and then the Real Red Reaction YouTube channel, always to catch us here on the stream. Nebraska's run game, 47 rushing attempts. And you look at 223 on the ground. That was not only a need, but kind of a want from me pregame. I needed and wanted Nebraska on the ground to be balanced. They were 223 on the ground, 4.7 a carry, 3 rushing touchdowns, 2 from Gabe Ervin as he came back. Dowdell looked great until the fumble, and then it was sayonara. Emmett Johnson, though, really nice. Nebraska, fellas, some explosives, right? That's what Coach Satterfield and this offense, they want to be. They also had an 11-play drive that finished off in the end zone. So it's not just big or go home for Nebraska on offense, at least against UTEP today. That was the heartbeat of their offense a year ago was the big play, the big pass, right, to a Lloyd or a Malachi Coleman. Today, you saw both. You saw the big play to Nayor. You saw the gorgeous back shoulder to Banks to really kind of ice this thing. And then you saw Emmett get in with a 42-yard gallop. You had a 42-yard run. You had a handful, 2 or 3, 12 to 13-yard runs. And Elijah, Nebraska's interior really played well today. That is something you expected with the experience level on that middle with Scott and, of course, with Mizuka, the bazooka in. But he really loves to pull, does a nice job with it. Evans also was fantastic. The tackles were pretty pedestrian, and that's a good thing. They weren't a good or a bad focus. They just kind of did their job and kept things even keel. I mean, you didn't have a lot of pressure from UTEP. It felt like Raiola could sign a few footballs or helmets when he dropped back into the shotgun. A couple of forced throws, really, by Raiola, but for the most part, really took what the defense could give him. They really spread the football around, but the rushing attack needed to be something that showed up. It did. And do we have a clearer picture right now moving into Colorado, fellas, of the running game? Who's your RB1? Is it going to be Emmett Johnson? Because he looked the best to me. I thought Ramir was nice out of that one back set as well with his cutting ability.
It's Emmett to me. Emmett's the guy. That's what I saw. I told you that. I think I leaned over and told you that in the first half, Smitty. Emmett was the guy to me that stood out as being the guy that looked like he had the confidence to hit the hole and break a tackle and go. Dowdell was looking good until the fumble. Again, as I said early in the show, I think that's going to loom large for him. He's going to get another opportunity, but he just dropped himself down the depth chart based on that sole moment, which is that fair? No, but that's football. Emmett was really good. I liked Ramir we saw in the brief moments. I feel like him more as a pass catcher, third down type back than I do coming out of the backfield. And Gabe Ervin looks like a thumper that can take the ball into the end zone from 4 yards out whenever you have the ball third and goal or second and first and goal, whatever it may be. That's kind of how I see it. Emmett, right now, bell cow. Ramir, third down. Gabe Ervin, power back, third and short, third and goal, whatever it may be. And then we'll see what that fumble means for Dowdell. I did like how he looked early. He looked like he was decisive, hitting the hole well, but you can't fumble in a Matt Rhule-led team, especially after what we saw last year. And I do want to say, Motzi, not to cut you off here, offensive line, Binhart, Mizuka, Scott, the 3 on the right side, that looks like a force for a lot of teams this year. I think Nebraska could try to run behind those guys, especially with Evans pulling. Turner Corcoran had a quiet game, which is all you can ask from Turner. It was consistent. He was solid. Didn't see him all that much and go, there's Turner Corcoran.
To your point about those guys on the line, I think Bryce Benhart, who has been very prone for false starts and other penalty procedures in the past, I thought today he played much better and helped protect the pocket, also helped in creating some paths for those guys in that backfield. You mentioned Emmett Johnson. I think you could go with him. Ramir Johnson could be also interchanged in that starting spot at running back, one of those two. Gabe Ervin is the guy I think that you could probably put in there as well. I probably might go with you guys on the Emmett Johnson part for next week against Colorado. But I thought all 3 looked pretty good today whenever they were in the ball game. And the thing about the running game today, what looked impressive about that is what they did in the trenches and creating those open holes. There were times where those guys were going right through the middle of that defensive line, or they're going around right tackle, left tackle, working out to the edges if they could, and they were able to get free. Then you look at some of those guys that were able to get those swing tosses on occasion too. Again, they look much better than where they were a year ago. And again, next week, it doesn't matter. I think if you put Emmett Johnson in there at the running back spot, I think he can get some damage done right away. And then if you get into a situation where you're in a, inside the red zone type setup, maybe you go to a Gabe Irvin or Ramir Johnson. One of those two could help as well.
We'll get to more of your comments in the stream. 489-1240. If you want to join on Real Red Reaction, we can get you posted up on the phone lines and do this over the Ethernet. Do it that way. Brian checks in. Hopefully we can keep our linemen on the field. Not a lot of plug-and-play depth when it comes to the second and third unit. I am having real problems getting the stream comments posted, but we'll read them out loud for you, Elijah. We'll try that. I'm going to try and reconnect on the other side, just a little inside baseball there. But folks are in the stream. Cliff was talking about just how effortlessly Dylan throws the football. And guys, that is something to be excited about when we look towards next Saturday night, the bloodletting that so many Nebraska fans want and need, that big stage moment, that big stage opponent that is Colorado coming in and Coach Prime, and really, quite frankly, the revenge factor for a few years of heartache with the Colorado-Nebraska series. It's going to be lit. It's going to be incredible. Zach says, I was massively impressed by Dylan Raiola, ball placement next level, bright future ahead. That is absolutely 1,000% correct, Zach. The ball placement, especially on those deep throws, the Nayor catch.
The incompletions. Those incompletions were also on target.
Was elite. That was impressive. And then, of course, the fade to Banks. I know we keep going back to both of those, but that placement was very, very special. You saw a little bit of Carter Nelson. Walter checks in from Philly. Nebraska making progress. They're now only minus 115 in turnovers the last 20 years. Cliff says Dowdell should be the starter. Irvin's a stud. He's a pounder. I know Dowdell is somebody that is got the speed and the size, man. That's the combo you want. It's a trust thing, though, and I know it's just one fumble, it's one play, but in a game that will kick off next Saturday, fellas, that one turnover could be a problem. You saw one field goal, you saw one punt in crunch time. That's all right. Not a lot of blitzing, Elijah. And Nebraska, on some of those obvious passing downs, those obvious passing situations, Nebraska was able to get some pressure, which you'd hope, with just a 3 or 4 man rush. So that is a lot of what Nebraska emphasized this offseason, and it showed to fruition. Kai Wallen, especially on the hard sock interception, got home and caused some problems.
What do you want me to pick up on? I was going to go back to the running back room really fast because I am going to agree in that I think Dowdell looked good, but why I think that fumble looms so large is because we saw today Nebraska's best opportunity to score points is throwing the football. I think it's an offense. We asked the question earlier this week on the show. It's an offense that is going to use the run to set up the pass. Get yourself those one-on-one looks on the outside to Banks and Nayor. They're as advertised. You want to use that running game to give those guys one-on-one opportunities for Dylan Raiola to take the top off the defense, to pick up third down. You can't have a running back out there that's gonna cough the football up. I think you have competent options back there, and whenever you have guys that are closely regarded in the coaching staff room, like guys that are close on that depth chart, the defining factor for who's going to play and who isn't is going to be who takes care of the football, because the running game doesn't need to be the star of the show this year. I think last year you'd be willing to sacrifice a little bit of ball security for a guy who can break one for 40, break one for 50 yards. I don't think that's the case this year, because you have a couple of guys. I mean, you already had Emmett Johnson show you once today that he can break off the big one. He had good vision himself. if he can protect the ball better than Dante Dowdell can, and I know it's a one-game sample size, really a one-play sample size, but you don't want to risk losing the football because you have a guy at quarterback that with the ball in his hands is special. And if you have a running back that's prone to turning the football over, is going to cop the ball up, put it on the dirt inside the 10-yard line, you can't have that guy on the field. It's as simple as that. And I hope he gets a chance to redeem himself to go play more football because you want to have the best guy out there. But a guy who turns the football over inside the 10 is not a guy you can trust whenever your best bet to move the football and score points is your quarterback. You need to have the ball in his hands. You can't have it on the ground and in the hands of the defense.
Black Hills Brennan chimes in and says, enjoy this. Don't take it for granted. Love the show. Love the stream. As you have a dude at quarterback. Guys, special teams. Let's go there. And Scott is right on it. Barney, not the psycho dinosaur that tormented us as parents or some of us as youth, but Barney, the return man, IGC, the punt returner, Nebraska. Starting field position, I don't have the average guys, but Nebraska, to my count, the opening kickoff, they started at the 25. They started one drive at their own 11. Otherwise, it was around the 37, the 41. They started a drive at the 50. Nebraska was able to get a little bit of yardage, and they had much better starting field position, and they looked competent to good. And Barney looks, frankly, dangerous in a good way when it comes to returning when it comes to kickoffs. I mean, he hits the seam and gets 0 to 60 quicker than Motzi in a Ferrari. So, I mean, it is pretty good to see that working for Nebraska on special teams. We're here at the Single Barrel as we're doing Real Red Reaction. That's powered by your friends at Slim Chickens and a lot of happy folks. You've got a great mood right now. Cliff is currently having an Oktoberfest, drinking some Yingling. Cliff, you're rubbing it in. I'm still on water. Saturday chimes in, and I agree. I want Fedoni catching it over the middle or up the seam. The pass to Fedoni in the flat needs to be retired. Not a lot of blocking downfield for Thomas as he was dead to rights on actually all three of those receptions, and that needs to be better executed. It brought back horrible memories of the swing pass, for me anyway. But Saturday, I think you're right on. Maybe they're just
can I add?
Trying things out. Go ahead, Elijah.
Why I think that play doesn't get retired is because of what it does to the guys in the secondary and the defensive side of the ball. Whenever you have to work, if you have a wide receiver who runs 4-4 a la Jalen Lloyd or Malachi Coleman, who I don't even think we really saw today, Lloyd, Banks, Mayor, when you have those guys running 4-4 right at you, it makes their job a lot harder whenever they have to worry about the tight end leaking out to the flat and this wide receiver coming to block them, because there's going to be that time wherever they see that tight end leaking out into the flat, they try to guess, get up and make a play in the flat, and it leaves the wide receiver open the top. That's why I don't think we're going to see that play get retired. I'm with you. I'd like to see the up the seam route to Fedoni or over the middle a little bit more. I'm just bringing you a coaching perspective of why they're running that play and why it makes sense, is because at some point this season, Fedoni's going to leak out to the flat. A defensive back is going to see it and say, I'm going to go make a play in the backfield here because he's never going to see me coming. And then you're going to have Mayor streaking down the sideline, and it's going to be a wide open 6 point. At some point this season, I'm calling it now, after the first game, we're going to see that. That's the reason why they're doing that, in my opinion, because you can keep the offense moving, and at some point, you're going to be able to have the counter off of that play to get yourself a touchdown.
Well, I love the comment here from Scott. Colorado isn't ready. That's something we're going to get into. Did what Nebraska showed you today make you feel better about next Saturday? Do you think Nebraska's ready? That was a two-part equation. All right, you saw the Buffs midweek or towards the end of this week, and you saw Nebraska and their effort. That gives you encouragement if you're a Nebraska fan, what the offense did, what the defense did, being pretty vanilla. And you still see, fellas, 3 or 4 guys around the football. They had 2 takeaways. You had 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You had double-digit players. The ball was spread around. Barney, Emmett, Keelan Smith, Fedoni, Mangini, Lindemeyer, Bullock, Carter Nelson, 3 catches, Bonner, 3 grabs, Banks and Nayor. That's a hell of a lot of different variety for 25 receptions.
One other thing I want to point out, fellas, just got some additional game notes from the athletic department here. The 40 points today, first 40-point plus game since the 56-7 win over Northwestern 3 years ago, and it was the largest point margin of victory for Nebraska since that win in 2021. And the other victory margin of victory was the largest in an opener since the 43-10 win over Fresno State back in 2016. So just some notes that I've got coming in here. 284 yards in the air thrown by Nebraska. That's the highest since throwing for 354 against Purdue in 2022. The passing season high in 2023 was 199 versus Michigan. And with total offense today, 507 yards. So they were over 507 today. That's what I meant earlier. They haven't thrown for over 200 yards since all season long last year, but they did it this year. So
can you
just some notes that come. I'm sorry?
Nebraska did not have a single 100-yard receiver last year. And Isaiah Nayor had 92 in the first half. And with his first reception in the second half, he got over 100 yards. So, yeah, I don't think – I mean, we all know how bad the passing attack was. Sometimes when you go back and look at the stats, you realize just how bad it was last year. Pretty incredible that Nayor did it in, 33 minutes of football. Got 100 yards, and Nebraska didn't do it once last year.
Now, go ahead, Elijah.
Also, another first time since statistic for you. This came from Amy Just with the Journal-Star. That was the first safety recorded by Nebraska's defense since the 2009 Holiday Bowl against Arizona.
Wow. So that's been quite a while. When you looked at the first time that Nebraska had its last 500-yard output, that was against Georgia Southern. That was the final game that Scott Frost coached in 2022. So it's been 2 seasons since then. So I think there's no question today it looked absolutely impressive, not just on the offense but the defense. But the offense today, I think the way that Dylan Raiola came out in his very first college football game today, you could see the confidence out there with this kid. But the other guys helped him out too, and everybody stepped up and did their job today. And everybody should be commended for what they did. And if they can play like this against Colorado next week, perfect. If they can do it again here against Northern Iowa here in a couple of weeks, and then go into Illinois, do the same thing, you got yourself a ball club.
It's Jeff Moats, Elijah Herbal, Chris Schmidt, Real Red Reaction live at the Single Barrel as Moatsy is in his man cave, Elijah back in studio as Real Red Reaction powered by Slim Chickens. It's over YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. You can grab us digitally. You can also dial in 489-1240 or 800-825-5865. We'll get you patched in right now if you have a comment. I want to mention Mikhail Bayer. Bayer played really high-level linebacker today. 7, make that 5 total tackles, 1.5 TFLs. Hartzog had a nice pick, got beat deep, but responded well. The interior did well. MJ Sherman almost knocked out their quarterback on the sideline, and you saw Willis McGahee the 4th, which was nice. There's a bunch of Willis McGahee fans here, as you can hear. You mentioned his name, people clap. Derek Branch and Gage Stinger to Nebraska Products was good, but Elijah and Moti, let's focus in on the defensive line. They've been advertised a lot coming into this season, and we'll get into your pick, your player, who was as good as advertised today. You can go obvious with the quarterback. You can go obvious with Ty Robinson, or you can go unsung as well, but start wrapping your mind. But you had a much-anticipated debut with Dylan Raiola. He is clearly going to get it for me, not to go low-hanging fruit, but I'm just going to say he lived up to it, managed things well, was calm and cool. Defense was as good as advertised as well.
I'm giving a game ball to each of the starting 5 offensive linemen. That's been a group, including guys.
Is it made of chocolate?
It's just a group that a lot of the guys that we saw in the field today have been much maligned. Bryce Benhart has been maligned in his Husker career. Turner Corcoran has been maligned in his Husker career. Guys that stepped up today, got the ball moving forward, for the most part kept Dylan Raiola clean. I know it's UTEP. I know defensive line was not the strength of their football team, but regardless, we've seen Nebraska's offensive lines have difficulty with offensive lines of that caliber in the past few seasons, last year being the exception, but in years previous to that, we saw Nebraska's offensive lines have issues with defensive lines that are the same caliber as UTEP. That was an offensive line that was quietly dominant today, always opening run lanes, keeping Dylan Raiola safe. It's not the sexy pick, but the former offensive lineman in me says give a game ball to each of those guys because they made that offense tick today.
To your point, Elijah, you talk about that line, and this is a group of, you talk about Corcoran, you talk about Benhart, those guys are veterans. They were very guilty of committing procedure penalties a lot here the last couple of seasons. Today they look great. If I had to give out a game ball to somebody in particular on offense, I think Nayor looked really good. He had 5 passes for 107 yards. He had that 59-yard touchdown reception in the second quarter. To me, I thought he looked very impressive today. I think that's one of those targets for Dylan Raiola to look at, in addition to Thomas Fidone and a few others. But I thought he looked tremendous. But again, back to the offensive line, those guys really helped make things happen today. They protected Dylan well and allowed him some time to make passes or create things on the run, whatever it could be, if it was a handoff or a pitch or even just, again, throwing the football. But I really think those two guys I mentioned, Corcoran and Benhart, really look completely different today than from where they have been in recent years.
And I think part of that can also be a credit to Raiola because he looks so confident and poised pre-snap, going through the checks, setting those protections. The offensive line, every single time that UTEP brought pressure, looks prepared to pick it up. I think that's a credit to Ben Scott in the middle, being able to keep your offensive line in agreement pre-snap, everyone knowing what your job is going to be, but also credit to the quarterback, being able to see where the pressure is coming from, get the offensive line moving in the right direction, getting that protection slid to the correct side. Was impressed with that offensive line's ability to pick up blitzes. And it's not going to jump out at you watching the game live. I think if anyone goes back and rewatches that game, anytime UTEP brought pressure, the offensive line did a fantastic job picking that up. There weren't any free rushers at Raiola today, at least off the top of my head. I can't remember a single moment where there was just someone that was lost by the offensive line, a free rusher coming through, getting a free shot on the quarterback. And that's a credit to both the offensive line and to Raiola. But the offensive line allowed Raiola to have that type of performance today because he had all day to throw on most of the times that he dropped back.
Real quick, Elijah, to your point about Raiola pre-snap and that offensive line play, let's go back to a moment where things were tight. It was 9-7. It was Nebraska's drive after the safety. They get the punt. They open up at the 41-yard line. In that drive, you get back to a 3rd down and 5. 3rd down and 5, and Raiola changes the play twice. Able to manipulate the defense. What happens next? He checks into a run play, and that's the 42-yard run where Emmett was able to scamper off of the left side, got caught inside the 10. But Raiola's brain, not his arm, making it work to set Nebraska up to go up 16-7 on that critical 3rd down and 5. Nebraska at one point was 9-12 on 3rd down conversions, and not all of them were 3rd and O Street. But you had that opening drive where, because of a couple of, you had a holding call and a TFL in back-to-back plays that, all right, Nebraska was in a 3rd down and 11 situation. It was 1st and 25. Actually, it was 2nd and 30. Well, let's get it right. 2nd down and 30 on a drive. They were able to get that recycled yardage made up. One of those was to Nayor to get back to the line of scrimmage pretty much, and then set up that 3rd down and 11 to get the conversion and then go in and go up 7-0. But you had Raiola make plays with his mind and his physical gifts. Couple of shout outs here. Scott, our dear friend Scott Viteska, Rumplement Scott has popped by to say hi. There is a no Rumplement policy on August 31st.
Well,
he forgot that.
Unless he were to come drop one off in the studio, I might have to.
He popped by to say what's up. We have royalty in Kyle Sitzman, the Lincoln, is here and said hello. Him and his wife, lovely wife Deb, said hello. So I wanted to shout out those two folks that are down here. Packed house here at the Single Barrel. I need better readers than that. What is KG saying, Elijah?
KG's asking if there will be a post-game show next week. There will be, KG. He says,
yes.
If there is, remember me, people, I will need to be bailed out.
The GoFundMe can be started now for KG. Is KG going to be in Lincoln is the question for Nebraska, Colorado.
That's where
that's the question.
That's where the tip money for the Real Red Reaction Show is going next week. It's going to the bailout fund for the Hail Varsity Radio and Real Red Reaction Show listeners.
Yes, all the folks in the stream. It's going to shift from let's see Elijah's feet to let's get KG out of the hole. Few more comments we'll get to here on Real Red Reaction. Your friends at Slim Chicken bringing it to you. 14th and Pine Lake, 84th at Old Shady. Locations to go visit if you're craving some wings, some chicken fingers, just good old comfort food. Skylar checks in when here on the stream. I like it. Gray Woman 79 says it's personal. Absolutely, it's personal for Nebraska and Husker Nation when the Buffs invade Lincoln next week.
And a question to throw around here when the Buffs invade. I think the defense was playing pretty vanilla today. Do you have any concerns about the secondary being able to handle what that Colorado team is going to throw? Schmitty's a popular man over at the Single Barrel.
Well, what's awesome here, fellas, is our dear friend Mr. Sitzman just brought me a tribute to Joe Papa, my father, as I'm getting back here on the stream. Sorry about that. And he made it known that there's no calories in Jack and water. So
that's not
salute,
true.
Dad, and happy Husker football season.
Games,
a lot of New Year's days spent in Sitzman's basement. The Orange Bowls spent at Sitzman's basement. If you want to watch a winning bowl game or big game, find a way over to Sitzman's is what I'm saying, historically speaking. Go ahead.
Tell Sitzman I said hello. He did a terrific job of running the Legion Baseball area tournament this summer, and he always did a terrific job. He does a terrific job with Lincoln Baseball during the summertime, and he's a great man. Tell him thank you for me. Also
tell him that Jack and Water does, in fact, have calories.
It does.
Yeah. But anyway.
I think he poured all of the Jack Daniels in here. I mean, this is Sinatra level right here.
But let me get back to the point I was making. Are there concerns with Nebraska's secondary? And again, I'll say it. I think Nebraska's probably going to have more of a game plan to get after that Colorado offensive line, more pressure next week. But whenever we saw Nebraska's defensive backs matched up one-on-one with the receivers of UTEP today, Nebraska's secondary at time had some issues. They did a great job rallying to the football. They did a great job stopping 1 to 2 yard gains to just 1 to 2 yard gains whenever they were getting up and tackling, whether it be in the run game or that short passing attack. But they looked vulnerable at times. I think a part of that is a product of Nebraska being a little bit vanilla defensively. But what's the concern level with the talent, the speed, the explosiveness of Colorado's wide receivers? Because UTEP had some moments today where their receivers looked pretty explosive comparatively to Nebraska's defensive backs.
And how about when they were doing that hurry-up offense in the first half? It looked like maybe they're going to try to utilize that and wear down Nebraska defensively. But Nebraska just, again, as you pointed out, they were very lucky and stayed vanilla and did, pretty good coverage afterward. But, UTEP, give credit to how Huntmaker, even Ty Robinson, and some of those other guys did in pursuing that pocket and getting around the quarterback. But I thought at one point when they were doing that hurry-up offense stuff and they're getting up to the line, I thought, oh, okay, here we go. We're going to see this. They're going to try to wear down Nebraska's defense again. But I thought really, and again, they, as you've pointed out and others have pointed out, they were vanilla, but I thought they held their own for the most part. But they really got to step it up, as you talked about, Elijah, with Colorado's receivers who the other night looked I thought they were pretty good, halfway decent at least. So that's going to be the key for next week. How is the defense going to match up well against those receivers?
Concern levels high, right? It's Horn, it's Shadur. What does he have time-wise in the pocket, fellas? It is a real concern because Horn, Hunter, Shadur, they are incredible. I mean, Nebraska is going to need to get home, bring the heat, bring the pressure. And Shadur's an even better player this year, guys, than he was a year ago at creating some time, buying some time to make a play, to get downfield. And so it's pretty high for me. But I think Nebraska's line is going to be the difference next Saturday night in getting home and harassing and beating up Colorado. If Nebraska wins, it's going to be the defensive line that is your difference and help out that secondary. Nebraska's got good players in that back five. Totally believe that. I think they'll be able to tackle, but you've got just some freaks in Hunter, in Horn, speed wise, and not just straight line speed. They've got some shake and bake to them. So is Colorado going to be able to make a living and stay in a ball game or outscore you with yak yards after catch? That'll be pretty important. I missed the funny. What happened on the stream?
KG in reference.
Said what?
I'm not sure we're going to put that up on the.
I don't think we
can.
It doesn't. You know what? It doesn't bother me or offend me. I think that's pretty funny. But still,
KG, I'll give you a shout out. But there might be children watching this show, and therefore we're going to stay away from.
I don't believe so.
I will add.
I'm gonna look at it.
One of the things that NDSU had success with against that Colorado receiving corps on Thursday was getting physical. There's been a lot made of Travis Hunter's push-offs. I really don't want to hear it because North Dakota State's defensive backs were getting super physical with those Colorado receivers all game long. It's what kept them in that game. The refs had a very, very consistent whistle, which was we're going to let them play physical both ways. If it's similar for Nebraska next Saturday, I think it's advantage Nebraska. If those defensive backs can get physical, can get up in the face of those Colorado wide receivers to really jam them off the line of scrimmage, be physical whenever they're breaking on routes, as Schmitty finally finds the comment.
He finally just saw the comment.
But
it's going to be hard for Shadur to throw. Is the concise version.
But
essentially,
it gets even harder though whenever Nebraska's defensive backs are going to be allowed to harass the Colorado wide receivers and make it really tough for them to get in and out of breaks on their routes. If that's what the whistle's like, if not, it's really going to come down to that pass rush. If the defensive backs aren't allowed to play physical with those Colorado wide receivers, you got to be able to get home with the pass rush, and specifically a pass rush of 4. That's going to be paramount in the game. But if Nebraska's defense can physically beat up Colorado from a physical standpoint, first off, and then second from a refereeing standpoint, if they're letting that defense play physical with Colorado, it's advantage Nebraska. We've talked about that plenty. The game plan to beat Colorado is to out-physical them, to play big boy football with them. And defensively, a little bit of that is going to come down to what the whistle looks like. But you also need to have a defensive line that goes out and dominates that game. And from what I saw today, I saw a defensive line that was not only physical with your starting 4, it was deep and physical. You had a lot of guys getting off the bench and wreaking some havoc today, which allows those top line guys to be even better.
Real quick, Mike checks in on the stream. Again, Slim Chicken's bringing you Real Red Reaction over the YouTube channels. Real Red Reaction YouTube channel, Hail Varsity YouTube channel, and KFOR Facebook, Twitter, Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter as well is how you can connect with us. 489-1240, 800-825-5865. As Mike is saying, it's going to be really. Do you really believe that? You can't spell scum without CU. You really think scum will perform better against an NU team versus how they did against North Dakota State at Nebraska at night. No, those are all pretty important elements, Mike. I just know what I saw Thursday with some of the skill guys that Colorado has. So Nebraska's offense is going to have to be able to score some points, take care of the football, and kind of dictate the tempo of the ball game.
And I said this last year after the first game against Minnesota. I will say it again. A wise man draws observations from the first game. A foolish man draws conclusions from the first game. You don't draw conclusions on Colorado based on how they played against North Dakota State. Don't draw conclusions on Nebraska based on how they played against UTEP. We have no context to either of these performances just yet. Observe.
Other than it's just game one.
Yeah. You make observations. Right. What my observations told me was Dylan Raiola was as advertised. Jamal Banks was as advertised. Nayor was as advertised. The offensive line seems to be improved. The defensive line looks like the defense as a whole looks like they picked up right where they left off. Those are observations, not conclusions. We need more context before we can definitively say, like, that Nebraska's defense go out and dominate Colorado. We have zero context for these performances.
I'm looking at the chat, fellas. I'm looking at the chat, and Brian, he put up a post. He says, I just want to see Nash and TY each grab a leg of Shedeur and make a wish. That's an old Midnight Express move from the old NWA wrestling.
We have an NWA wrestling reference. Put it on the bingo card. I love it. I love it. So let's hear a little bit from Matt Rhule. What did Coach Rhule think about game one in 2024? Are we going to rock that now here, Elijah? Want. All right, let's hear from Matt Rhule here on Real Red Reaction.
That's another great job on the field, so.
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm probably the most proud of was I thought the way they came out after the second half. As I told them, the team that maybe I first knew would have been up 30-7 and would have relaxed. And I challenged them, A, we have to build a competitive stamina to play for 60 minutes. And B, you have to love your teammates enough to get all those. The best part of that was seeing all those kids at the end, getting, a guy like Maverick Noonan have a tackle for loss who missed a whole year with a knee injury, or the guys who walk on, the guys who are on the scout team have a chance to play. So that to me was, everyone will be walking on the building with a little bit more, vim and vigor because they got a chance to play. So that was awesome. There's a lot of good things in the game. Obviously, there's a lot of things we have to clean up. One drive exposed us a little bit, just the tempo. They do such a great job with their tempo and they're aggressive. I really like their team. We wanted to give all of our guys a chance to play, but, didn't want to embarrass them. Wanted to give Jalen, Grams had a chance to throw the ball some. And, they competed to the end. I really like their team. But I'm happy with it for our guys to come away with the win and get all those guys in the game. So with that, I'll take your questions.
I know it's the first game, and you haven't had a chance to watch the tape. What's your general impression of the way that Dylan not only threw the ball, but managed key moments in the first half?
There was some good and there was some bad, right? So, the best one was, he three-way checked. He three-way checked the long run by Emmett, right? Like, he checked it, and they kind of moved, and he checked it back. And so then he checked it again and got us to that run. So, when you have a freshman that's checking and reloading things, that's an unbelievable job by Sat putting those kinds of things in. Great job by Glenn teaching it. Great job by Dylan learning it. And then also the O-line and all those guys being on the right call. There were some other things, like there was a 3rd and 2 where he heard RPO, the receivers didn't, so there were some of those moments, right? I thought the biggest thing was, we were, I think until that last one, we were like 11 of 16 on 3rd down. I think we probably finished 11 of 17 on 3rd down. A lot of those were runs late in the game, but I think we had some really big 3rd down conversions. And then, I told you guys, I think sometimes people think maybe I say things and I don't really mean them sometimes because, I say a lot of things. But with 8 seconds left in a timeout to take a shot in the end zone, right, that is saying that we're going to play the way we want them to play someday. And I didn't call a timeout and say, hey, now remember, hey, get it up, get it down. And he took a shot and boom. So I was really happy with that. So I thought for a first game for Dylan, a lot of great things. I think there's a lot of things we have to clean up as a staff, and we will.
Isaiah Nayor is a guy who waited a couple of years to be on a college football field himself. What can you say about Isaiah? I think he ended up with 121 or something.
Is that what he did? I'm so happy for him. Yeah, I thought the big time catch, down the sideline for that long ball. We also had a lot of pass interferences, right, where we extended drives by taking shots down the field. And he worked the middle of the field too. Some big catches on RPOs going up. He's not afraid to go up and extend it across the middle. I thought really we got a contribution from pretty much everyone. Big third down by Bonner, big third down by Naylor, then the shot to Banks at the end. So I'm really happy for Isaiah. He does everything right for us. When we got him, Mitch had known him. Mitch Trolowinski had known him at Texas. Said he was a great guy. He's been a great addition. And that receiving core, there was no jealousy out there today. It was just an amazing vibe from those guys.
What did you think about that safety that kind of turned the game? It gave 7-7, and that was a huge point in the game.
Yeah, we've worked so hard on not fumbling the ball, and we talked all week about, hey, they're going to tackle us low. And so for us to put that ball on the ground on the 4-yard line, and I went out to the defensive huddle and I tried to say something. Marquise was like, man, we know what we're doing. We've been here before. They were excited to play. And you saw them. I don't even know how that'll happen. I didn't see exactly what happened, but I just saw guys playing really hard and fast on defense. And so that was great because it was such complimentary football, because I think they kicked it to us. Jacory had a decent return, and then we went down and scored, right? So that was a 9-point swing, and that's kind of we want to go on runs. We want to score, stop somebody, get the ball back with good field position and score, or kind of like that, and that happened there.
Now you had 30 good carries across those 4 running backs. What did you learn about that group today?
I thought they all made plays. The shame of it with Dante, had that fumble, but he was really running well. Dante's done such a good job. Like at the end of the spring, I would have probably put him at 4th, right? And he's really brought himself where I think he was the second back in the game today. And, it's not really like, hey, this guy's Ramir went first. It's kind of like, hey, Ramir and Emmett do the same thing. So it's kind of, a little different thing. But Dante, I thought he was really playing well, running the ball well, and then had that fumble, right? But we're happy to see him come back. So Gabe, showed some really good plays. Emmett with the long run. Ramir, I thought he ran hard. And so I was pleased with the whole group. And Maurice got in there and played well too. So.
And then what about the offensive line? I don't enjoy a clean pocket most of the day, and also
Yeah, I don't know what we finished with rushing, but we I think with I don't know what is it. We finished with 507 yards, but with 223 yards rushing. I thought they were clean. This is a team that blitzes a lot. We gave up 1 sack where Dylan had to come out and we got beat on a late twist, and Dylan signaled something, the receiver didn't get it. That's one of those things going back to we have to be cleaner at when you play, you get into Big Ten play, you can't have missed signals, so we have to improve. But had that ball gotten out, I think we'd have come away from the day with no sacks. And really, again, those 3rd and 12s, even we had that unfortunate OPI moved us back. It was like 2nd and 17 or 3rd and 17. We hit 2 plays in a row. I thought the O-line gave great protection, and our backs do a good job of chipping, which is really good.
How beneficial was it just to be at home today in this type of setting compared to maybe a year ago? You had to open on the road on a Thursday night, sold out, just to kind of build this team the way you do.
Well, I think first of all, I'll say this: there's not many places in the country where people stay for the whole game the way that our stands do. It's unbelievable, right? Like usually at the end of the game, you can kind of yell out like, "Hey, you run it, give it to so-and-so, run it," and we're still having to use the headset. If you notice in the game, I started off with a single. You probably didn't notice, but I started off with a single, and I had to go to a double earphone today. It was so loud on the field. It was so loud. It's loud on offense. We put Heinrich in, and everyone got real loud. And I'm kind of like, I'm doing the old, hey, be quiet. But but it was great. It was great to have that atmosphere, have that crowd. When you're at home, you have all those kids that can get in the game. Last year was really tough. I talked a lot about that, but last year's now kind of over. So we got a chance to start at home. We got off to a good start. Coming in, some of the older guys were really happy. They were saying they had never really experienced that kind of a game where the game was over at halftime, really. And it was, they're watching all their young guys get in. They hadn't really, maybe they have, I don't know, but they said they hadn't had that. We certainly didn't have that last year. Then this game last year, Louisiana Tech was 28-14 or so. It was good to see them, put it away.
0 for 2 on 4th down. What's the biggest thing to fix?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't hear what you said.
No, sorry. 0 for 2 on 4th down. What was the biggest thing to fix going into Colorado?
0 for 2. We were all 0 for 2 on 4th down.
Yeah.
Although we had a couple, I think that got by penalty. So no, I think we're going to go front 4. The last one was, at the end where we don't want to, we have the third team guys out there, but there's a lot of things that we have to fix before Colorado. There's a lot of things we have to fix before Big Ten play. This is game 1. You make your biggest jump, before from game 1 to game 2. So I just felt like with our team, we just really needed to play. Like we needed to get out there and play, see what it looked like, see what was good, see what was bad, and now we can go back and fix it. Like I thought IGC did a nice job on the punt returns. I thought Jacory was dynamic on the kick returns. So, you say, I thought we got close to maybe blocking a punt, So there's a lot of things, though, that I can go back now and say, okay, let's fix this. That's why I'll say, I'm sorry to interrupt to say this. That's what I thought was really important at the end. Like at the end, you don't want to embarrass the opponent, and they're so competitive. But I thought it was really good. We at least got to kick a field goal. You know what I mean? Like we've talked so much about kicking. To kick a field goal, I think, was really important for us. Sorry.
You had spent basically 9 months trying to retool the offense, and Dylan's a big part of that. The picture that you saw today, was that maybe the first step that you were hoping to see going into the game, the way that they played, and the yards they gained?
Yeah, we're a lot. I mean, we're better than we were, right? And so, even the crew that was here, they said, "Hey, what do you want to see on offense?" I said, "Well, last time you called one of our games, you called us a disgrace on offense." So, and they were kind of like, "Oh, we don't mean that." I said, "No, we were. Like, I don't take that offense. Like, that's where we were. The thing I didn't do was overreact. I didn't fire Sat and fire everybody. I said, okay, we'll get a little bit better." And now you're out there. You see guys making plays. You see the O-line blocking, tight end. I mean, our tight end play today was excellent. They had some catches, but they had a lot of key blocks. So, our check game, the ability to, check runs was so much better. I just think we're better than we were, and we're going to continue to get better. And, guys like Jacory add a dynamic element. Not one of those plays got called back, but that would have been a dynamic play. The big receivers made some plays, so we're just better. But we have to get a lot better moving forward.
I don't know if jinx anything, but what is +1 on the turnover margin mean today?
Yeah, and let me ask you this: did they count the safety as a turnover?
No.
Well, they should. I might do it in a regular. Yeah, that seems like a turnover, does it not? I mean, I was sitting there because we were -1, and then we did that, and I was like, well, okay, we're even right now. But and I was happy for Ramir. I mean, you're talking about a kid that I did not bring to camp. Okay, did not bring to camp, and over his body weight, right? And even in pregame today, he said to me, "Hey, I'm 205," which is what I told him. I said, "If you're 205, you can play. If you're 206, you can't play," right? Which is funny. Me fighting with guys about their body weight, like it's a pot calling the kettle black. But he made a play. He's a really good football player, and so I was so happy to see that. I mean, who else had one? Malcolm had one. So I mean. That was good to be +1. And it's not like sometimes you guys have heard me say +7. What I really would like to do is be like +1, +2 every game. I don't want to have like, hey, we got 7 in one game and that skews the numbers. I just want to come out every game plus because, a lot of these games are going to come down to the last possession. If you can steal a possession, then you have a chance. And I think the safety is a way of stealing a possession.
However, more important was it to reward these guys with a win. You worked so hard, obviously, and you actually got to reap the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, they had to reward themselves. Like they had to go do it, right? And so I feel like there was such energy today in the meetings and the walkthroughs. This has been a great week of practice. There was so much energy about playing. And then again, the challenge at halftime to come out in the second half. And then they came out in the second half and I thought they played, right? And so, I made this comment about all the fans who stayed to the very end. But, I thought our guys played hard to the very end. And I thought their team played hard to the very end. I mean, I really respect that, And so that wasn't one of those – sometimes you get those games, right? Everyone starts throwing punches and it gets chippy and ugly. And that was two teams that respected each other. So that's what Nebraska football is about to me. And it was good to be a part of it. But I'm happy for our guys. We want to know. I told them, I said, I don't, I'll answer the one. I don't care about next week's game yet. I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning. I'm going to enjoy this. This was hard to do. And they've worked really hard to get there. We'll wake up tomorrow and we'll start it all over again. Thanks, guys.
That was Matt Rhule, as we'll have Dylan Raiola's post-game comments coming up. You're tuned in to Real Red Reaction, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, on KFOR, on Hail Varsity, YouTube, Real Red Reaction, YouTube, and KFOR, Twitter, and Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio. That's Elijah Herbal, Chris Schmidt. Here at the Single Barrel, Jeff Moats in the Moats Man Cave. We need someone in a shop class to carve out of a tree stump Moatsies, and we need to hang it behind that left or right shoulder, Moatsy. But
I do have a few brouhahas in my refrigerator out here. There are a few brouhahas and a few other fine spirits that I could probably bring out the next time we do this.
Yeah. I got to stash them in the studio for me here. Would that be a violation? I think probably.
You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna load up Thursday and put. We're gonna get a list for Elijah, if he's got to be back in studio. And we're going to get a cooler ready. That's our job.
Yeah.
For Elijah anchoring back at studio. But back to Matt Rhule here. I love what he said about don't relax. You're up 23 points. Do you care about the guys next to you? Get your scout team / third team / fourth team guys in. And that's a situation Nebraska has not been in a lot of times, that the thing's done at halftime. And Nebraska came out the right way defensively. They came out the right way offensively. Harburg got to go in here really early into the third quarter after one final touchdown drive, the sweet fade to Banks. And Nebraska was in business. So we'll get to more of your chats. We invite you to join the chat in the stream. 489-1240 to get in if you want as well. We'll take a phone call or two, 800-825-5865, Motzi.
I want to get to the point. During his post-game presser, Coach Rhule talked about he thought the crowd was great today. He thought the environment was great. And I know there have been a few people on here that probably said, well, the crowd wasn't that great. And I think there have been others that have been, saying, well, it was a pretty good atmosphere. And if Coach Rhule thought well, but if Coach Rhule says that he thought that the atmosphere was great, that's a good thing, because there could be coaches at at other schools across the country that they may just say that as just lip service, but not truly mean it. I think Coach Rhule truly meant it, and I think that's going to be important for next Saturday night. I mean, it's a night game, number one. Yeah, you're going to have plenty of time to get primed up, if you know what I mean. And go out there and go watch what could be a very good football game. And I think that's going to be a big factor. If the same noise is happening, if it was happening there today, that same noise has got to be elevated to another level next Saturday night. If you want to try to take Colorado out of the game and get them not focused on what they're trying to do.
And one person to credit here with the rowdiness of Nebraska's crowd today, you might not have seen this at home. It was making rounds on Twitter. Will Compton firing up the crowd before the opening kickoff. He had a pre-recorded video, which was absolutely phenomenal. I'm not sure if people were able to see that at home. I was in the press box. I didn't get a chance to see the TV broadcast, whether or not they featured it. It's made the rounds on Twitter as well. But a fiery pregame speech from Will Compton on the Husker Vision screens, which really got everyone in the mood for kickoff.
Well, yeah, it would be funny.
It got Carter Nelson in the mood, too.
It did. Well, what would be hilarious is if they don't censor it. You want to see Arthur and Bertha lose their mind in West Stadium. I mean, just let Bill eat.
And they drove all the way in from Binkelman.
I mean, we love Binkelman. I mean, you think of the Husker fan you've grown up sitting next to for decades on those wooden bleachers. You've helped pick splinters out of each other probably before. And Arthur and Bertha, I mean, they're there. They've been there since the Carter administration. And they've seen the good. They've seen some bad. They've seen some ugly. And then there's Will Compton.
The final straw.
losing it on the big screen. So good on Will Compton. I've got a Husker fan that is in the red and white striped overalls off over here near to the window here. Is Single Bear is pretty awesome. If you haven't been, get a steak, get a whiskey, but they've got those garage door windows, so it can be open air. We'll just call him.
Already had a steak tonight, by the way.
Oh, I love that, Motzi. I'm going home to fire up pork chops. So, dude's got his white undershirt on, got his overalls. He's got his cowboy hat. He, I believe, has a giant tattoo on his right shoulder, and the guy spent time in the gym. If I were to guess, the left tattoo I can't see says "in the business of killing," and the right bicep tattoo says "business is good." He rolls in here after a few natties or Busch Lights or Coors or Cornhead Lagers. He's like, "Bring on the buffs!"
Does his undershirt
he's geared up?
Does his undershirt say "Guns don't kill people, I kill people"?
No, it's just
gosh!
It's just a white cotton tank top.
I will say, speaking of the red and white overalls, I did see it. It warmed my heart to see. As I was walking into the stadium today, walking past some tailgates, I saw this, what I can only describe as frat boy, college student type who had a lot. He had a lot of drinks pregame, and as he's walking by, there's these little kids who I'm sure he's never met before in his life that he throws up the hands to as they're playing catch with the football. And it's just this super drunk college kid with these like 5-6-year-old kids just having to catch. And I'm like, that's it. That football is back. That's what game day at Nebraska is all about. Something about that moment warmed my heart. And I don't know why it like stood out to me in that moment of just like, yeah, that's an awesome moment to see the super drunk college kid playing catch with a bunch of kids and everyone's having a great time.
He got Otised up like Otis the Town Drunk on Andy Griffith. He got
Well,
Otised up.
What's funny is you could smell folks were ready for it today. And what I mean by that is all the tailgates you walked by, you could smell the burgers and the brats, yes. But you could smell the beer. I mean, folks we're getting after it.
I thought you were going to say with the warm weather, you could smell the lack of deodorant.
No,
man.
I didn't get sacked on 3rd and 9 by old man BO. There was no East German treatment, at least that I walked into. Motzi, final thoughts. I know you got a scoot. We're going to run a little bit of Dylan Raiola as we wrap things up. Get more of your comments in. Last call here in about 20 minutes here on Real Red Reaction, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, KFOR, Hail Varsity, and, of course, can check out Real Red Reaction. Like and subscribe to all channels on YouTube. Slim Chicken, big thanks to the amazing folks at Slim Chicken. Get your wings, get your fingers, get your salads, get your desserts, get that sweet tea with Slim Chicken. And 2 locations in Lincoln for you, 14th and Pine Lake, 84th and Old Shady. Make a phone call now. Get dinner taken care of. But Motzi, Nebraska's off to a 1-0 start. First home game in 5 years, 40-7. It was what it was supposed to look like today.
I agree. And again, I talked about this earlier in the show, how it reminded me of the Nebraska of old. And you know, you and I, Schmitty, in terms of Nebraska football, I can go back to as far as the early 80s and remembering always seeing Nebraska opening up a home game with a victory. Very seldom did they ever lose a home opener, and let alone a lot of home games, unless it was like an Oklahoma or on occasionally when Florida State may come up and play. But I thought the way they played today is the type of football that everybody that's a Nebraska fan has been yearning for quite a while. And so the way that they played both on offense and the way that Dylan Raiola threw the ball today obviously shows signs of promise in terms of what the potential lies ahead for not only him, but this program moving forward this year. The other thing is to remember, this is only the first game, and we won't get a firm grasp on what this team is really all about until probably game 4 or after. And I'm not saying they're going to roll over and play dead against Colorado, and they're not going to lose it against Illinois here in a few weeks, or be subpar against and still win against Northern Iowa. I still think you're still trying to get that identity established, and And Coach Rhule made this a point during his presser that there are a few things that they still got to get worked out. Yeah, they played well today, but there are still a few things that they got to work out here between now and next Saturday night. And that's good to know. And they're going to get to work on that. But I think if you look at, for sure after the Illinois game, we'll probably have a pretty good idea what type of Nebraska team this team's going to be in 2024. I certainly think today brought shades of yesteryear, back in even the days of the Osborne era, even when Frank Solich was coaching, that type of Nebraska football, running the football, pounding the ball, even making some big pass plays here and there. Although I think, the way that Dylan Raiola throws the football, he may be one of the best throwing quarterbacks this program has ever seen. And so, but again, it's only game 1. It's a step in the right direction. Bring on Colorado next week. Let's see what they can do in a primetime night game next Saturday night on national television, for that matter, and see what they can do against a team that caught the nation's attention a year ago with Coach Prime taking over the controls out there. So I'm looking forward to next Saturday night to see what this Nebraska team can do against Colorado in a home environment. And again, as I mentioned before, fellas, the crowd has to be a big, big factor from opening kick until the very last second ticks off the clock. They have got to be into it the whole time.
Nebraska's ready. The fans are ready to dance on Colorado's grave. They're going to start tomorrow. All right, they're going to get geared up tomorrow for Buff Week, and it is a statement opportunity. It's a big game. It's a primetime slot. I mean, it's all of those things that you're supposed to be a part of if you're Nebraska football from a competition standpoint. It's time to go play well and win one if you're a Nebraska fan. And you'll have that opportunity. That's who you want. That's who you want to tee off on. And easier said than done, but Nebraska looked good today against a team they were supposed to look good. Great Red Shark says we'll need to score against CU as Horn and Hunter will break free for a few. Just got to play clean, smart football and beat the hell out of them on defense over and over till they fold, and that is on the money. Help me out with the handle again.
Great
you
Red
took it
Shark.
down to
Great Red Shark.
You are Great Red Shark. You're on point there. It's going to be the phone booth line of scrimmage that is your difference next week, and we've got all week to talk about it with Hail Varsity, KFOR. Motzi will say fare thee well. We'll run some Raiola here as we wind it down. More of your comments. We'll get to as many as we can. Jeff, thanks for checking in here on Real Action. We'll see you.
See you Monday morning.
All right, bud. There he is, Motzi, in his Moats Man Cave. Elijah, is we got about 15 minutes left. More time for you.
Whoa, we just
in this stream.
You say we just got 15 minutes, but we just got Bill Dolman into the StreamYard green room. So let's welcome Bill Dolman to the show.
Yes,
I know
that'll be great.
We're promising Dylan Raioula's post-game press conference. We're going to get there, but we couldn't make the Pride of Fairbury wait.
No, and I mean, I think the Pride of Fairbury's thirsty. Bill Dolman, Bill, 40-7. Time to start booking Tempe. I shouldn't say Tempe, but Phoenix. Time to start booking playoff tickets after you saw what you saw here for game one.
I'm there right now. Can't you tell? That's Camelback Mountain right back out there. So.
You're staying with your friend Chuck Barkley again, I see. All right. Well played, sir.
Yeah.
Scouting it out. But what'd you think today, man?
I was listening to your show. It was a Friday night around 5:00, and the dude was just freaking dead on in what he had to say about just brilliant. But Dylan Raiola, does not have to be perfect, and he has playmakers that all he has to do is go let them make plays. And I'm pretty sure my brilliance, or whoever said it, I'm sure that might have been even yesterday and really the last several weeks anyway. He doesn't have to be perfect. Let those guys make plays. He can worry about being, perfection down the road next week. But his 2 touchdown passes to Banks and Nayor were plays in which he put the ball where those guys could go make the play. He didn't have to try and pinpoint it in between the numbers or in the triangle on the 4 on Jamal Banks's jersey. It was go put it there and let those guys do what they came here to do. It's why I said they're 2 of the best collegiate acquisitions of the offseason for any team. And they proved that today. Neither one of the passes that he threw was perfect, but it was placed where it needed to go for them to go do what they've been brought here to do. So, plus you had a defense that played pretty well. I mean, 40-7, that's good. But that's exactly what I really kind of expected. And I think yesterday I said, Elijah, you asked me, what does he need to do? And I said, I think something like 17 of 29 or 30 or 19 of 29, something like that. And I don't know how many yards he threw for, but that was really what I think I wanted to see from him. And I think that was a great debut for Dylan Raiola. Good as advertised, good as he needed to be, and utilized those receivers in the way that they've been brought here to do. And those two guys are going to make him better, and he's going to make them great.
Bill Dolman with us here. Real Red Reaction here on the YouTube channels, Facebook, Twitter, KFOR, Real Red channel, and also Hail Varsity, Twitter, and YouTube as well. So the combination of the wideouts with the quarterback, Bill, was impressive. You've got a dude in Mazuka that likes to maim people. The run game was strong. You had the Dowdell fumble, so he may be milk carton, which is too bad because he looked really good. But we were talking earlier about Dylan, and you had Satterfield mention this. You've had Rhule mention this, and that is the cerebral part of Dylan Raiola. It's 3rd down and 5. You need a response drive. It's 9-7. You've got momentum. You just had a safety. That safety flipped things for Nebraska after things were tied 7 apiece. You had the fumble. You needed to get some mojo back. You get a safety. You get return yardage. God forbid they did a better job, and there's a light or a glimmer of hope with the return game. But it's 3rd down and 5. You're driving. He makes 2 audible checks into a run call, and Emmett does the rest 42 yards. You've seen it. You saw it with his arm on those touchdown passes, but you saw it with his mind, Bill, getting that run check called against a vulnerable defensive formation.
Yes, and going back to the touchdown at the end of the half to Nayor, or was it Banks? Whatever. There's 8 seconds to go. He made that play in 6 seconds. That the clock management in the head of the quarterback to say, I cannot let this play go beyond 7 seconds, because if that pass, if he holds it a little longer, lofts it a little higher, half ends, and there's no points if it's incomplete. So the ability to understand the moment of that moment in the game, that I've got to get rid of it, and I've got this amount of time to get it there for him to make a play. And if it's incomplete, we can still kick a field goal. And that's something that's going to get lost in the shuffle of the very efficient statistics, the 2 nice touchdown passes to the great receivers. And you're right, that the play on 3rd down and 5 and all that led to. But managing that moment of 8 seconds to go and getting that play completed in 6, right? Because if Nebraska comes out of that without getting any points because that last play took too long, they're going to say that's bad clock management again. And Rhule didn't learn from last year, because that was one of the Achilles heels, was the clock management. But in that moment, they ran that single play, and it turned out to be a touchdown. If it had, they still could have kicked the field goal. I think that was one of the most impressive sequences for a number of reasons.
And a part of that sequence, Bill, that really impressed me that you didn't necessarily hit on, but I want to get into, I mentioned it briefly, super briefly early in the show, but I want to get back to it, is what did Dylan Raiola take advantage on that play of? He saw single coverage on his guy, Jamal Banks. He did it on the same thing with the Nayor touchdown. 2 guys that on its face, like you look at them, they're not open. Whenever you think of the definition of open in football, they had man coverage on them. I guess it was zone against Banks, but a guy over the top in that Banks touchdown. You had a guy in man coverage with a safety over the top on that New York touchdown. And it's not something Rhule would have done on that first drive, I don't think. But as he settled into that game, he himself made adjustments, which I don't want to sweep under the rug for a freshman quarterback, because you go, oh yeah, a college quarterback should be doing that. You're right. But I want to emphasize, it's a true freshman quarterback who, as the game went on, realized, you know what? I'm having too much respect for these corners. They can't hang with my guys. I'm going to go up there. I'm going to throw a jump ball to Isaiah Nayor. I'm going to throw a jump ball to Jamal Banks. And I'm going to trust that my guy can come down with it. Not something you necessarily saw in the first drive early in that football game. It's something you saw as Dylan Raiola settled into that game, as he got a better feel for what the UTEP defense was going to be throwing at him. And as he realized that he had the advantage offensively compared to their secondary, not to be swept under the rug, how he adjusted as the game went on, realizing what the UTEP defense was. It's not easy to do. To be able to realize, hey, you know what, the game plan we started on the first drive with here needs to change because our guys are better than their guys. Not something that is massive, but it's something I want to note because it's rare from a freshman quarterback to have something like that.
Yeah, he played a very heady and savvy game, and it was a great first test of the season. It's going to be tough, regardless of how much we want to malign Colorado. They do have athletes where you need to have athletes at receiver, at quarterback, and in the secondary, and they've got Sanders in two of those positions. That is going to be a much different secondary for him to face. And so the challenge, again, is going to be Naor and Banks making plays against much better players. And conversely, everybody around here loves Malcolm Hartzog. He is the ultimate underdog story because he's about 5'6", playing major college football at safety and cornerback positions. And he's coming from Mississippi and all that stuff. But, he got beat on the touchdown today. And if I'm Colorado and I'm Travis Hunter, I'm thinking whatever we can do to exploit the height and Travis Hunter's ability, we're going to try and match it up with Hartzog. Nebraska's got to make sure that they're able to have Tommy Hill in that area, as well as some help, because Hunter is good enough and Sanders is good enough. Those two together, and Horn, they're good enough to beat you. But now Nebraska's front seven or front six is much different than North Dakota State's, and probably many than any other team that Colorado will face all year. So Sanders will have more pressure, no question about it, and a much more savvy and senior-oriented, experienced defense. But if you're just talking about 2-on-1 matchups, Sanders and Hunter against any corners in the country, you probably like Colorado's chances.
Bill Dolman's with us here. Real Red Reaction, powered by Slim Chicken, 84th and Old Shady location, 14th and Pine Lake. Big thanks to Slim Chicken for their sponsorship of Real Red. Bill, we'll get you out. What you saw today, you outlined valid concerns about next Saturday, 6:30 NBC under the lights. Man, it's going to be insane. Folks are already starting right now to prime and prep, no pun intended, for them Buffs. But let's play a little pay it forward. You saw the Buffs against North Dakota State. You saw Nebraska against UTEP. Did what you see tonight or today from Nebraska ease your troubles about Colorado or increase your troubles?
Oh, I don't know. I think there are areas where they have an advantage over Nebraska, and I think that there are areas where Nebraska has an advantage over Colorado. One will be the setting. I think it'll be an electric atmosphere in Lincoln. I think that's going to play to Nebraska's advantage, especially to the black shirts. I may not like to admit it, but Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter and Joe Horn are formidable, no question about it. But I do think the front six of Nebraska will play a huge role in how that game plays out. And I think one of those other guys defensively is going to be a Shedeur Sanders shadow. And I'm not sure that he's going to. I think he'll probably feel his evening in Lincoln. So it'll be on the secondary to cover those guys and to make plays that. Look, North Dakota State doesn't have the same athletes that Nebraska does. But if Nebraska gets pressure on Shedeur Sanders and has him thinking a lot and dancing around a lot, it's not going to matter, if they have Terrell Owens or the Joe Horn Sr. in the, running routes, because you get hit a bunch and you have to second guess a lot. That's going to be a challenging deal. On the other side of the ball, I think Nebraska's offense proved that it obviously can be very balanced. I think the offensive line played adequate. What Nebraska had over 500 yards in total offense, and when have we talked about that? That used to be a regular thing. But 11 people carried the ball. Love Emmett Johnson. Ramir Johnson, Dowdell might be in the doghouse. So, I mean, it shapes up to be a pretty good game, but the fact it's in Lincoln and Nebraska's got some athletes on defense. And I think Dylan Raiola got a ton of confidence today in what he can do. And people that have a lot of confidence in him and the way he manages the game, just throwing the ball away, But I'm so impressed with that 8-second into the first half and how that played out.
Bill, before we get you out of here, I do want to get your thoughts. We roundtabled this earlier, and I want to get your name. If you're giving a game ball out today to anyone not named Dylan Raiola, who are you giving that game ball to?
Well, I'd certainly like to give it to Isaiah Nayor, but as much as I've talked about the kicking game, Tristan Alvano, you came through, at least for today. You look good. PATs were good. You put points on the board, and it wasn't the points that Nebraska had to have. They scored their touchdowns, and then they paid some premiums with some protection points with field goals and all that. So, Tristan Alvano, good on you. Good return to the field. So I'll give my game ball to Tristan Alvano in the kicking game. But Isaiah Nayor is better than I thought he was going to be, and I expected him to be really good.
Love it. Pride of Fairbury, Bill Dolman with us, the professor, a live reaction / look ahead tomorrow morning, 10:15, right after you get done with church, or you can duck out of taking the family to the buffet. It's a live Average Joe show on YouTube and Twitter. We invite you to check us out. The Iron Horse will be with us, Bill Dolman, Elijah Herbal, myself, as 10:15 tomorrow morning, a live Average Joe sports show.
10:15? I had it scheduled for 10:30. I can change that, though.
No, fine, 10:30. That's fine. It gives me a chance to get a cup of coffee.
Let me check here. let me check and make sure what time I scheduled it for.
That's fine.
I scheduled it for 10:30, but we may go a little early. We have the right to do that.
10:15 to 10:30 is what we're saying. Billy D, let's get a drink later. Big Cat, appreciate you making time here.
Yeah, save a seat wherever you are.
I'll give you a shout.
See, boys.
All right, there he is, Bill Dolman. We will wind down Real Red Reaction, powered by Slim Chicken.
After Raiola?
Yes, after Raiola. We're going to hear from Dylan right now. And be sure to like and subscribe. Real Red Reaction YouTube channel, Hail Varsity YouTube channel, and also KFOR Facebook and Twitter, and Hail Varsity Radio Twitter as well. Give that a follow at H Varsity Radio. Here is Dylan Raiola.
All right, questions for Dylan.
Dylan, how long have you waited for this moment and kind of break down your first game here?
I think I've been waiting since I could think about playing football, probably 8 years old. Just try to take it all in, not be like tough guy football player. You got to be a human and enjoy the scene. And it was a lot of fun. And the fans showed out, like I knew they would.
What was it like having all the fans around you there for the first play and having all of Memorial Stadium behind you?
Yeah, it means a lot to have that kind of support for our team, and just to have them behind us. There's no place like it, and very grateful to be in this position with all my teammates, and I'm grateful.
That first touchdown passes the expectation meet the reality of when it happened.
Yeah, when I threw the ball, I kind of got hit, and I didn't really see it go. And so I just listened for the crowd, and when they were cheering, and I looked, and Zay started stumbling, and it's like, just stay up. Like, just stay up and score. And he did, and he made a tremendous play on it.
On that 2-minute drill, what's going through your mind as you're trying to manage that moment, because it's kind of a tight clock there, and then the throw to Jamal. Your coach was very praiseworthy of how you handled that moment. What was going through your own mind?
Yeah, our team has been trained on those situations, and obviously having that communication in the helmet helps. But we've seen a lot of those situations come up in practice. So when it came to the game, we just fell back to the level of our training. And Jamal made a fantastic catch, and that was a big touchdown to end the half.
What you see on the play on Emmett's long run, where you had to make a check, and I think there was a defensive check. Coach was complimentary of your mind work, the way it worked on that. What did you see from the defense?
Yeah, it was just a look we saw all week in film. We weren't sure if we wanted to do what we were trying to check into. And I think 2 nights ago, my uncle came to me and told me, like, this is what we want to do, and, like, let's do it. So, we got into the look, and they adjusted, and, we adjusted back to what we wanted. And Emmett put his foot in the ground and made a huge run, and that set us up to score.
How do you think you did today, Dylan? How do you think you played? I
think I did pretty good. Obviously there's a lot of things that we want to fix and clean up, but it's hard to get wins in college football, and for our team to get the first one of the season, it's exciting, and just look forward to getting better.
On that opening drive, I mean, going down and leading the offense to a touchdown, I mean, how important was that to kind of set the tone for how the offense is going to operate?
Yeah, we love the challenge that we get the ball first. And we just knew, like, we practiced all week. We practiced honestly since January on for that moment to start the game off right. And our guys came out and set the tone. Our O-line was moving people, running backs were running over people, and receivers making plays. So I was very, very pleased on how we handled that.
Got in a bit of a tough situation early with the 2nd and 30 on the first drive. Just how did the offense get out of that and, get to the end zone after being backed up so far?
Yeah, it's just a what's next mentality. We say it, and, it's one thing to say it and then to believe it and act on it. So I'm very, very proud on how we acted on that. Coaches got us back in a groove, and, we kind of started rolling, and we didn't look back.
Going back to Sam's question a couple of minutes ago on in-helmet communication, how much did it help you having a coach in your ear, not having to run over to the sideline and get some of that offensive adjustment while you're out there on the field?
It's nice to have that. It's really just the play call. They tell us the play call, and then we have our whatever we have in that play. But it's very helpful to have your offensive coordinator talking to you, and kind of it just brings a calming to you to hear him call the play. He's very calm in the headset, and I like having it.
You can share a special moment with your dad and family down on the field. Could you tell how he was processing the day?
Yeah, he had glasses on, so I couldn't see if he was crying or not. But that was a special moment. It's always a ritual of ours to have a pregame prayer on the field, but to have it on first college game, all my family there, it meant a little more, especially with my dad going to this school, and the marquee left with the name of the stadium. So, yeah, it was a great special moment for our family, one we won't forget.
Take one more.
Seeing the other quarterbacks get in, how fun was that for you to even see a guy like Jalen get in, join your team late and get that opportunity?
Yeah, it's awesome to see those guys, get in. They put a lot of work in. They do a lot of work for us, and that was our goal this game, was to handle our business. So the guys that busted their tail for scout team or second string, get those guys in. And after the game, Jalen and I just shared a special moment. Like both our dreams came true. His dream was to play here, and obviously my dream was to play in Nebraska. So it was a special moment for us.
Let me ask you real quick, what are you most happy with today? Like, what are you most pleased about your game today?
I think just kind of handling that lull we had. I thought we handled it very well. I couldn't have done it without my team and my offensive line protecting me. And at the end of the day, my receivers made plays, and their defense didn't. That's what it comes down to, is just making plays. And I'm very, very happy that we made those plays, and excited to keep going.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Dylan Raiola there, and really awesome commentary from Dylan, his experience, the family connection for sure with Dom, seeing his boy run out onto the field, and of course, Gramstad, Elijah, just some final thoughts here. Cherry or two on top here as we wind down. Real Red Reaction powered by Slim Chicken, 14th and Pine Lake, 84th and Old Shady, 2 locations for you. So, Elijah, I mean, that's all the things Rhule talked about, and here comes Dylan saying, well, here's where my motivation was. Let's go win the ball game. Let's be great. Let's score some points. But there's some other off ramps too that are important, and that's getting guys that are busting it Monday through Saturday for you in the ball game, and just seeing a team win happen. You've got a lot of maturity in this team with young and old, but you also have, again, another exclamation point with Nebraska's culture that may be a difference maker when we talk college football moving through the season.
It is hard to believe watching what we saw today and hearing what we've heard all fall long in fall camp press conferences and after the game today, that's a true freshman. That's an 18-year-old kid.
It's a pro.
I know. I've been on the radio since I was 20 years old-ish. No chance I could be as poised as that, as hardworking as that, as comfortable in front of the media as he is at 18 years old. It is really impressive. I don't want to let that get lost in the sauce of what we saw today. Like, really, really impressive young man. I think that's a credit to his parents. I think that's a credit to Dom and his wife. It's a credit to everyone that's been in his corner. A lot more tests upcoming for him this season, and we'll see what happens whenever any true adversity strikes. I don't think he really faced much adversity. The 2nd and 30 was the big one that comes to mind in terms of on-field adversity today, and he rose to that challenge, went and picked up a first down and route to a touchdown. But today is Dylan Raiola's day, and I'm just super impressed with what I saw on the field. Again, not going to draw conclusions from one game. I'm going to draw observations. My observation is I am impressed with the poise, the confidence, the maturity of that guy at 18 years old.
We'll hit a couple more chats. Saturday asks if I'm walking home. And Saturday says, get home and cook that chopper. Pretty nice. No, I had to go to the men's room briefly. But we will get into Colorado week. Mike Corrigan says Westbrook, Salam, Cordell were formidable as well. I love that. Love that. Negative Mike's asking, hey, is Tom Brady playing next weekend? He is not. You have Roger saying Shador can't scramble. Agreed, but he can extend plays. Can't wait. Can't wait for Buff Week, Nebraska week. And it's going to be incredible. And we invite you to hang out all week long with us on Hail Varsity and KFOR as we're working Monday. So we'll have plenty of thoughts as we get Buff Week started. Amazing guests lined up for you. Husker legends, Buff folks that are part of the program as well. And just programming note, we're back here at the Single Barrel on Thursday to get Buff Week rolling. Nebraska week, Nebraska Buff Week. I better get the order correct for Husker Nation. So we'll be back here Thursday, 4 to 6 on the road with Hail Varsity. Friday, back in Gretna at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill Patio Show Part 2. And then we're back here at the Single Barrel for pregame. Ahead of kickoff, I'm thinking that's a 3 to 5 or a 3:30 to 5:30 afternoon show. And then we are at the bar, 17th and P. Seth and Greg and the crew having us for a live post-game Real Red reaction. We've been there for Oklahoma. We've been there for some of the big games. And I tell you what, it'll be incredible to be at the bar, especially if Nebraska is able to handle business next Saturday night. The bar where we're at for Real Red reaction next Saturday. We're here at Single Barrel for the rest of them, and we love the folks here at the Single Barrel for having us out another football season. That's my spiel, Elijah. Some final thoughts from you. Delivered. Nebraska delivered today. That's my final word with the Big Red as a 40-7 win and cover happen under game one of the Dylan Raiola era.
My final thought here, and I can't believe I haven't said this yet, Husker Nation, if you need to hear this, permission to get excited about this season.
Thank you.
Permission to get excited.
Yes.
Yes. What we saw today was what we've been waiting all offseason to see. Improved quarterback play, a poised quarterback behind an offensive line that you trust, the skill position players, specifically the wide receivers, and the transfers even more specifically that lived up to the billing. And I'll add Ja'Cory Barney in there as well as a newcomer that has lived up to the billing. We saw a taste of that in the spring game. He looked good today. a running back by committee that appeared to actually be because you have 3 or 4 competent backs, not because you have 3 or 4 incompetent backs. You're like, well, screw it, somebody's got to get hot. Like, what you saw was an improved offense in almost all facets, from quarterback play to running backs to offensive line to pass catchers. It was improved. Is UTEP the definitive test for how good this offense can be? No, not by any means. But the observation is this offense is a lot better. And what have we talked about all offseason long? If the defense can maintain, which what I saw today looks like a defense that's picking up where they left off with an improved offense, you're going to be going bowling this season.
Watch out.
You're going to be getting on a roll. Does that mean that they're going to be a top 25 team? Does that mean they're going to be pushing for a college football playoff? No, let's not get out ahead of our skis. But you do have permission to be excited about what this year can be because of what you saw from the offense. It's one simple test, but they passed that first test with flying colors. I am confident that this offense will do better at picking up the slack and being a complementary piece to what this defense can be. What does that mean in terms of a win total? Don't ask me today. Today is not the day to think too far ahead. Today is just the day to say, you know what? It's okay to be excited about Husker football again.
Reinforces that hope, right? It reinforces the hope. Uncle Jimmy checks in, says, seems like Dowdell came out of nowhere. Agreed. He really turned it on. Our old friend, the Iron Horse, said as much. Sharpie in some of our pregame comments, how he got it rocking and rolling. Just needs to hold on to the football. Dion, we ran punts back today. Yeah, Nebraska had a field position situation that wasn't horrible. They weren't in jail much of the day, if at all, today, thanks to what their kickoff and punt return game did. We will sign off. We will say check us out Monday at 4. We're working the holiday since it is Nebraska Buff Week. We'll have thoughts from Matt Rhule. We'll check in with Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, and plenty to get you ready for Nebraska, Colorado, as we'll be back with you all week long. And, of course, on your game day Saturday, as much of the nation, Husker Nation and other, will descend on the capital city for Colorado and Nebraska. Can't wait for it. Elijah, you rock. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, Motzi. And big thanks to Slim Chicken powering this Real Red Reaction show. We'll talk to you Monday at 4 on Hail Varsity, on KFOR, and on our YouTube channels. Take care.